Good afternoon and hello, everyone. My name is Rich Longo of Flycast Partners. I'd like to thank you for joining our product update for the Everywhere Enterprise webcast presented by Frederick Sears of Flycast Partners. Now, Frederick has nearly 30 years in the IT technical space. I'm sure he doesn't want us to date him. He's been involved in information technology and security professional dedicated to educating people and businesses about the risks and dangers associated with not safeguarding their information. He's helped businesses and partners identify critical business processes, applications, and design solutions to secure their data information in this ever-changing threat landscape. Somewhat of an expert when it comes to the IT security space. So before we get started, Frederick, let me introduce Flycast Partners. Flycast Partners offers best-in-class implementation services and training in IT service management, IT asset management, IT operations management, IT security, enterprise service management, and workload automation spaces, all using ITIL best practices. Our professional services team has well over 5,600 professional services engagements, both on-site and remote. And we have definitely done a lot of remote as a result of the current pandemic situation. And as an company, Flycast Partners has well over 1,200 customers all throughout Canada and the United States. I encourage you to reach out to us at 844 Flycast. That's 844-359-2278, or visit our website and chat with our IT experts Monday through Friday during regular business hours from 8:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. They're happy to get you those white papers and data sheets and help you out with training or answer any questions or get you demos or help you get into our support program if that applies, or remote administration services. Or if you don't want to contact us in any of those other methods, you can simply email us at info@flycastpartners.com. So during today's presentation, we will take live questions from you, the audience. So please take the time to type those questions in the questions section of this GoToWebinar. And at an appropriate time, I will read those off to Frederick, and he'll answer as many of those questions as time allows today. And without further delay, I'm going to go ahead and turn this presentation over to Frederick. Frederick, I have given you control, sir.
Well, thank you very much, Rich. Very kind introduction. Welcome everybody to it's kind of a product update for our Anywhere Enterprise solution. It is based on the MobileIron product suite. As I'm sure you're aware, MobileIron was just recently acquired by Avante, and we're very eagerly awaiting a lot of the exciting announcements and product updates that they would be going on. So jumping into this, let me make sure I get here. Okay, so who is MobileIron and what did Avante acquire in that? Well, a couple of things about this. MobileIron has been around for almost 14 years. Little known kind of factoid is they were the first mobile device management, now unified endpoint management solution that was designed and built specifically for the Apple iOS system. As you can see out here, they've got a substantial customer base. They've worked on a large ecosystem of partners. They've got a large number of security patents, and they are a leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant. They're kind of people think of Microsoft Intune or other places, but MobileIron is one of the leaders in this space here. I guess I'll throw this out here. The last 2 years have been, I would say, both challenging and exciting times. And, prior to our current pandemic situation, if I were to ask anybody out on there, what does your enterprise look like? What does your environment look like? What is it that your business is looking to do? I think everybody would have given very different answers. And literally, I would say within a matter of overnight, we had to, as IT professionals and security professionals, had to pivot completely. Take a good example. If I asked you 2-3 years ago where your perimeter was, a lot of people would still tell you, an answer from 10 or 15 years ago. It's my data center. I've got some remote people accessing it, but my perimeter is here, and it's relatively secure. I would argue today that there is no perimeter. The perimeter is the universe. where are people? Where are they working? What do they have? Is everything a company provided device, which we all know that's not the case. Companies are just not doing that anymore. And users want their own devices. They want an Apple, they want an Android, they have their preferences. So this is where we come up with that term, that everywhere enterprise world. And the question from a security perspective is, how do we secure it? And the question really, I think you take back to the next step is, what are we securing? Okay, we need to secure our data, but then to a certain degree, we also have to ask, what are our customers, our end users? Where are they going? What are they doing? Where are they located? Where are they working from? I mean, walk into any Starbucks, Panera today, and 50, 60% of the people sitting there are in between appointments waiting for their next meeting. So, the concept of zero trust, everybody and everything is really a threat, and you have to be aware of that. How does MobileIron address that? Well, today we're going to talk about 3 of the solutions in the platform. It's the UEM platform, or what people sometimes refer to as the MDM platform. From a MobileIron perspective, it is more than just iOS and Android. It's Mac OS, it's Windows, it's modern software distribution. Okay, we're going to talk about their mobile threat defense platform. This is, in my mind, and having coming from MobileIron, this solution is really a game changer compared to other solutions that are out there in the marketplace. And very simply put, MobileIron, their MTD piece is not an additional agent. It is a software development kit that is actually built into the UEM. So when devices are enrolled, that threat detection is there and just waiting to be activated. And then we'll get into, and we'll talk a little bit about the zero trust part of it. Okay, so again, kind of why are we living in this enterprise world? One of the things you need to have, and you look at the 3 things here, is you've got to have scale and flexibility. Okay, we talked about this before. That people are working from everywhere, and they're using on any different apps. Threat detection. Can you say with 100% certainty that you are protected from day one? And I would argue that anybody says yes, we can, you're not. Okay, attackers they're anywhere from half a step to a full step and a half ahead of us all the time, and we're constantly in a reactive mode. Okay, we may think we're being proactive at times. However, we are always in a reactive mode. Okay, and then to complicate that issue, when you start talking to the business, and again, I won't ask anybody, Rich, this would be an interesting survey question, is how many people struggle with a security aspect within their organization strictly from a budgetary or a monetary standpoint? And I think, asking that question, I think 90+% of us would say yes, that's what it is. Having talked about security and zero-day protection, what's the easiest way to get at the data? Through the user and guessing a password. Okay, passwords are the single weakest link in any chain of the security platform, and we all know that. So how do we actually eliminate the password while still giving people access to the applications they need, while at the same time, and this is critical, and this is where a lot of the other solutions, again, in my personal opinion, fall down, is providing a user experience that is not, oh, I've gone to access a system, now I've got to type in a PIN, now I've got to do 14 different other things just to get control to make it secure. I want to be able to, maybe use my mobile device and say, oh, I'm going to do a biometric, I'm going to do a facial recognition, or I'm going to scan a QR code, and I'm into wherever I need to be, whether that's a on-premise application or whether that's a software as a service application like Concur or Salesforce or anything like that. Okay, so jumping into the UEM, this is kind of the heart and soul of the platform. This is where everything starts. Okay, this is where everything begins. It starts with the user enrollment. Okay, And again, we talked about it covering iOS and macOS, Android Enterprise, Windows 10, and some of their MDM solutions there. Once you're enrolled, depending on how you set this system up, you have the ability to create either a full work-blown profile, company-owned profile, or you can have your users come in using their own personal devices and create what we call a trusted workspace. And we'll touch on that in a second. The other part that is really nice here is if you're a retail operation or if you're working on a company floor or have specific applications like barcode scanners, you can create either single app type modes, or you can put these the devices that you use into a kiosk type platform where nobody can load any additional software and they're only going to be able to access the applications that you have to do that. Okay, flexibility and scalability. The platform itself, can using the cloud-based solution, can scale well into the millions of devices without a problem. Okay, theoretically, I've actually seen deployments myself that are well over 500,000 devices. And when you start looking at devices and thinking about devices, people on average will have anywhere from 3 to 5 devices, sometimes for themselves, when you take in work, personal, cell phones, things like that. Deployment. This is always the biggest challenge that we struggle with in IT. The beauty with the mobility side of this, or the UEM side of this, is that MobileIron integrates with all the providers that you see here. So deployment can literally be handled, if you choose to do that, from the vendor where the device is purchased from. AT&T, Verizon, there are many third-party kitting services that are offered by people. And as part of that kitting process, you can have the device pre-configured. It can point right to the MDM UEM solution, and applications can automatically be pushed down to the device. Or it can be put into kind of a state where it's halfway there. So when the user gets the device, whether it be, again, iOS, Android, personal choice, they can simply open up the box, fire up that device, and they'll be presented with, I need to log in. So they can provide their login information once, and then with a matter of just a couple of clicks, everything that they need to do their work can be pushed down and deployed to them in a matter of, it could be anywhere from 15 minutes to a couple of hours, depending on the amount of software that you're pushing down to that device. Compare this to some of the other solutions that are out there that require, how many times did you think about this? How many times has your help desk gotten a call from a user and said, I need help setting up my phone, and there's 35, 40, 50 clicks, and the user doesn't have time to do that. So ease of deployment is really what we're getting here. And again, if you're hearing this reoccurring theme of user experience, this is what we want. We want our users to be embracing and using this solution. Working from anywhere. We touched on this before. Again, the pandemic has made this a reality of life. But with your users working from anywhere, what are they connecting to? What's on their device? What networks are they accessing? Okay, this is where an additional feature within the MobileIron platform called Tunnel, and it's their own VPN solution that can be automatically fired up, allows you to ensure with either the entire device or certain applications a secure channel back to your data. Okay, again, supported on all of the platforms across there. As we talked about earlier, that has the multiple OS, any app type scenario. One of the things that MobileIron gives you the flexibility to do with a personal device, okay? So non-corporate owned device, users want their own device. You can establish what we call a trusted workspace. Now, this is, in theory, people will look at it and say, oh, you're partitioning the device off and I'm separating resources in memory. You can think of it like that, but it's really not that. It's literally just setting up an overlay. You see it very clearly on the right-hand side here with an Android device where you think of the secure folder, but you have a trusted workspace where you can load your work-related applications. You keep them completely separate from the personal side. It also creates, in essence, a barrier between personal applications mixing with business applications and business data being able to be transferred over to the personal side. I mean, again, companies are very protective of their data. Salespeople, for instance, are one where you don't want to have sales information bleeding over, and you have kind of a mini, data loss prevention type solution here. It's not a full-blown DLP solution, but it does give you the ability to prevent certain types of data from being moved across into that personal workspace and walking out the door when that employee leaves, or just keeping them on a device that you don't have to manage, or that you do not have management to. The other part of this that is really very convenient or exciting is that when a user leaves or when an employee is moving on to another position, or let's say they're being let go from the organization, you have the ability to actually pull that data off of that phone without touching the user's personal data. So there's, again, no interaction, but you can securely remove the applications and the access and the data that resides in that trusted workspace off of that phone and have a full audit of that in the reporting. So it's very easy to satisfy any type of audit that comes along with that. So as I mentioned in the beginning, and I'll touch on a little bit here, MobileIron has a very broad ecosystem. They have their own marketplace that's accessed from that you can see from their website. They make available a full API set, and they also integrate with all of the major players and minor players that are in the marketplace today. It was commonly referred to as MobileIron as the Swiss Army knife of unified endpoint management. We're not interested in locking you down or pushing you into a corner to say you can only use these certain types of applications. We wanted you to be able to, again, user experience, common theme there. We wanted you to be able to, have that user experience. What does the business need in order to function? Okay. For example, let's look at identity management providers. There's Okta, there's Ping, there's OneLogin, there's multiple startups that are coming on. Many of these solutions are already pre-built into the MobileIron platform, but for those that are not, there's the ability to, actually with a little bit of scripting and some definitions, you're able to add your own identity management platform to the system. So again, flexibility, user experience is a key theme going on with the solution. Deployment options. MobileIron was one of the first, if not the first, UEM provider to deploy out to the cloud. As I said, they initially were born in about 2007, covering the Apple iOS with their MobileIron Core platform. They gradually added identity and security into this. And in 2012, they deployed what they called was their hosted based solution that has gone through a couple of iterations and is now a full-blown software as a service model, literally running on Microsoft services or microservices and within the AWS cloud. So it is a global platform. There are 3 different cloud instances that are regional instances that are out there, Europe, Asia, and the United States. It has multiple certifications. It's fully FedRAMPed. So from a security perspective, whatever would be a potential concern to you could be very easily mitigated, because everything that is done within MobileIron is done across all of the platforms. So even though the certification for, like, say, a FedRAMP may apply only over one of the specified instances, because they're looking at ease of management, ease of deployment, it applies across all of the other instances that would be here. They're constantly introducing new both UEM features and OS features as they're deployed. Updates within the cloud typically happen about 11 times a year. And they can be, you don't have to do anything about that. That's handled automatically as part of the platform. If you're running something on core or an on-prem solution, and some customers still would like to have that, there are anywhere from 2 to 3 major updates that come out each year, with multiple minor updates along the way that you could then schedule as your change control processes work to. Okay, so why do I care about UEM? Kind of to wrap this portion of this up, you're looking at, again, you want flexibility and scalability. You want to be able to work anywhere, and you want to be able to use pretty much any device that you have, because we all know that in these changing times, devices will change, applications will change, features, functionalities will change. MobileIron is a solution that is actually very responded to those changes, and has very strong partnerships, not only with Apple and the Android ecosystem, but they're also working very closely with Microsoft as well. So again, it all comes back down to, again, user choice and user experience. Rich, I'll pause there for a second. Are there any questions come in around the UEM side that maybe we can tackle here?
Not so far, Frederick. And folks, please go ahead and type those questions in there. I'll read them off. We've got Frederick here to answer them for you. We've got lots of you on here today, so there's got to be a couple of questions out there in the audience. So please type those in there, and Frederick's happy to answer them for us.
Yeah, I can't believe that I'm covering it as complete as some people would, Rich, but maybe I am. So, okay, so moving on, let's talk about MobileIron Threat Defense. Okay, this is the full-blown security. I'll use the term overlay for the device. So the UEM itself is going to cover the device. When you look at the device, you think of the device, you think of the network, you think of the applications. Okay, we touched on the fact that MobileIron can create a trusted workspace, so that, for example, if you have an application that needs to run Google Chrome, you can actually configure the system to run Chrome only from the trusted workspace, and if somebody tries to fire it up from a personal side of the device, it'll block it. That's all handled at the UEM side. Where you start getting into some of the network threat and the phishing and the malware, here's where the MTD solution comes into play. And hackers today, you think about this 15, 20 years ago, and kind of the metamorphosis of security and vulnerabilities. Attackers were targeting the systems, okay? And we did a very good job of protecting the systems. The mentality today from the end user perspective, or the IT end user perspective in most cases, is that we're still trying to secure those assets, okay? And we do a really good job of that, but to a large part, we forget about the user. And the user is really our most vulnerable endpoint. As I said, touched on a little bit earlier, you think about where is the user on any given single day? What networks are they connecting to? What type of emails or applications are trying to be, hey, I saw this cute app, let's go out to the, either sideload this, try to push this out to the Google Play Store. Apple has had some instances where applications have had malware. Again, it's very, very rare, but there have been some apps that come down that are questionable, okay? So this is where the MTD solution comes into, and we're going to kind of specifically address the phishing side of the house, because there is phishing capability built into this product as well. From an activation perspective, as I mentioned earlier, MTD is built in as part of the code of the MobileIron Go application. So when that application is loaded at, device enrollment, even though it may not be, you can be activated right away, or maybe it's going to be activated later on. It's very easy to go out to the console, and this is where organizations, to a degree, get themselves hesitate to use the word trouble with like an audit perspective, but try to get full compliance with their devices. I don't know what's been activated. I don't know what the reporting is. Since devices are checking in, I put it in activation key. I push this policy out, and literally within 15 minutes, I can start seeing devices checking in. The MTD portion is being activated. I can start seeing, potential not only protection, but potential remediation. Remediation will run in any way from, I'm just going to monitor the device, I'm going to notify the user. I can go as far as, blocking applications from starting. I can even go to the point of hiding the applications on the device if something, some type of threat that is very nefarious, or what I believe might be a day zero type attack that I don't have a protection against on the back end. I can hide those applications so the user literally will not be able to see them on the device until that device can either come back to IT, or I can work with the user to try to resolve those issues. So what really is so appealing about the devices? And again, I touched on this with the UEM. When you look at this from a layering perspective, the UEM is going to handle those core components of the, validating the device, the network, the application. Phishing side of the house is where MTD kicks in. And you think about the types of URLs that come in today. And we've got our device here a little bit. I've got a little recorded demo here for you to see. Is that phishing attack comes in, somebody sends a text, I need the feedback. It's a quick hit. Somebody asking for somebody quickly. And if you're out in the environment, you look at your phone, oh, let me take care of this really quick. You don't think about to check the URL. Most users, again, are not, they're thinking about completing the task. They're not thinking about the potential risk that may be there. And with all the potential types of spoofing that can go on, it's very easy to, quite honestly, it's very easy to trick a user into clicking on something they shouldn't get on, go into. So here's where threat defense really kicks in. This is, in kind of my mind, a little bit of a basic example of it, but it shows the power and again, the ease of use that's there. So again, kind of coming back to why do we care about MTD? Again, high rate of adoption, very easy. Okay, as I mentioned, single application, the code is deployed with the UEM. I don't have to worry about pushing additional software. All I have to do is put an activation key into my console, click apply, and boom, I'm ready to go. Day zero protection. We showed the phishing example, but we also do multiple vector type protection and scanning. You're looking at, you've got the capability to look at third-party networks. I can prevent third-party networks from, connecting to those devices. I've got on-device protection and remediation, anywhere from a monitor to a deny to a block to a complete remove of the applications. Verizon reported back in 2020, 22% of all data breaches involve phishing. They say that. A couple other numbers I look at is that 94% or almost 94% of all data breaches start with the user and start with a phishing attack. Okay, and it's not always just the managers, directors, VPs. It's sometimes interns and anybody else that's working in the environment. It's about looking for the most vulnerable or least aware individual within that organization to get my foot in the door. Once I'm in the door, then I can land and expand. That's where MTD, in essence, kind of shuts the door. Again, this is available on the on-prem, on-device solution and also available within the cloud. Zero sign-on. This is the part with MobileIron that is actually pretty cool. This is at times what I will describe with a customer as being multi-factor authentication. Think about it this way. We can change the conversation and we can change the mentality of a customer and user to, instead of typing in a user ID and a password, the one thing today, I forget what the actual number was, but pretty much people will always have their phone with them. Think about this. You walk out of the door in the morning, and let's say you're always making a pot of coffee and you're grabbing a cup of coffee and you're out the door. You forget your cup of coffee and you're a mile away. Are you going to go back and get it? Probably not. You'll stop at Starbucks, you'll stop at Dunkin' Donuts, you'll stop at your local coffee shop and pick it up. You drive away from your house and you're 5 or 6 miles away and you forgot your phone. How many people out there are going to turn around and go get their phone? I'd venture to guess, and what I've seen, every single meeting I've been into, I've gotten a 100% response from everybody that I've asked that I'm going back to get my phone. It is become, these mobile devices have become a critical component of our culture. Well, why not leverage them to become part of the identity management? Here's where we can eliminate the passwords. How many people struggle with getting complex passwords, getting rid of weak passwords? I'll give you a perfect example. The last company that I was with, well, I was with MobileIron, but when they were recently acquired by Avanti, that's a bad example. Let me go back here. When I left a previous company on the data storage side, they were acquired, and we had a multi-factor authentication solution. And in order to integrate the environment, they had to tear down that multi-factor component. And what happened was they also had a password policy. You had to change the password. Well, we went from a multi-factor authentication solution, ease of use, ease of access, to a complex password solution. Had to be 12 characters, alphanumeric, special characters, and we had to change those passwords every 60 days. I bet you can guess what happened. Passwords became a complex password, but every time we had to change them, it became at a -1, at a -2, at a -3, and so on. So users are, everything that we try to do as IT professionals to secure the environment, if it involves a password, users are smart enough, they're going to figure out a way to try to defeat any defense that we're putting in. There's our problem. How do we solve it? Zero sign-on. Okay, ZSO combined with MTD and the UEM platform give you visibility into not only do I have authorization to access the service and the data that I'm requesting, but it also works in conjunction to make sure that is my device itself secure, and do I have a second validation along with it? Okay, we help filter out the bad guys. We use the mobile phone to either scan a QR code or to prompt for a biometric, whether it's a fingerprint or a facial recognition that's available on these devices, and we help validate the user. We're validating the user in a way that's like you provide a piece of information and you also have a piece of information. It's coming to a secondary device. This can work with both fully managed devices. You can also do this with third-party devices and personal devices. So you can actually control where your users can get access to the system. Never has that been more important than actually in the last 12 to 14 months with the current pandemic environment. People are working from home. They're on their home networks. If you're a family person and you have kids, there's a tablet. The kids are picking up dad's work tablet, or they're sitting down doing something and dad decides, I'm going to get on my personal device because this is what I need to do. I'm going to check my email. all those things play into a potential vulnerability to steal data, and we have a way to prevent that. As I mentioned, there are a couple of different ways you can do this. There's the full-blown managed solution where to a large degree the device is trusted, okay, as the request to access the system is requested. You get your credentials, some tokens are passed back and forth in between. At the same time, you have the UEM is checking the device for its status. Is it up to date? Is it got the latest, threat detection turned on? Is it allowed to access this particular service from this particular network? So, I could, if it's a highly secure system, I could say, you know what, I'm not going to allow it to access anything that's not remote. You've got to be in the office. But that's one way. On the third-party side, I can set up what we call conditional access, and I can decide which applications are going to be allowed access and whether they're going to be on a third-party managed device or their own personal device. And I use the phone or use my mobile device to further validate that. And I'll show you I've got a scripted recording here so you can see that. In the fully managed environment, okay, you've got, very simply, you're going to access the service, and if you watch here on the top, you're going to see, I'm going to type my login to Office 365. It's going to happen within a matter of just a quick second. As I log in, you're going to see it redirect its credentials. You saw very quickly up there, you saw access .mobileiron.com kick in there. And then you came right back to log into Microsoft. That's how fast it is. Okay, again, we're talking about user experience here. If it takes a tremendously long time to do something, users are not going to do it. They're going to find a way around it. Okay, so this is integrated directly in. What's happening is the user authenticates, provides their login information. I see a fully managed device. I've got a valid managed device on the left-hand side that I just automatically send the response back, and I then gain access to my my service. What happens if I'm looking at a third-party or personal device here? Well, here's where you get in again to either a QR code. This comes into play where, again, are users okay with having their device fully managed, or do they want a level of, I'll use the word autonomy. Again, keeping their personal information. That fits in more with the bring your own device to work type scenario, where we create the trusted workspace. But either way, we use the device to validate the user's identity. And as you'll see here, I've got my third-party device on the left-hand side. I've got my mobile device on the right. Okay, I'm going to look to access Office 365. I'm going to pick an account. Okay, now what's happening in the background, this is not a fully managed device. I'm going to get prompted on my mobile device to say, am I trying to access this? Okay, I can respond yes or no. Okay, obviously if I'm not there, I'm going to say no because it looks like somebody's trying to access it, but I say yes, prompts me for a biometric, provide a fingerprint or facial recognition, validates me. I've now had that multi-factor authentication, and I'm into my Office 365. As I said, this works with any number of identity providers. Active Directory, Ping, Okta, all that integrates into this. So the other ease of this is that I'm not having to create user IDs and manage passwords in multiple locations. I have my single identity repository, okay, whatever that is. Via LDAP, I create the connection, and then those accounts are, two things. They're imported into the MobileIron platform, but they're also used for authentication. Again, why do I care? Building this out, as I said, we all know passwords are not secure, they're not intelligent, and a lot of times they're not user-friendly. I mean, How many times have you had to ask for a password reset and they issue you a temporary password and you're like, really? How do I've got to flip a screen to try to remember that or cut and paste it. 80% of the breaches are caused by weak or stolen credentials. Attackers with time and access will get into a system. There's no doubting that. The studies have been out there to show that. Verizon has reported that. You look at any of the security groups, ISC or the ISSA. If a person has time and patience and the tools, they can pretty much get into anything. So how do we keep them out? We've got to just try to secure it and make it that much more difficult so that they're going to go someplace else. Getting rid of the passwords is one of the ways to do that. Okay. Passwords alone, as it says here, cannot stop unauthorized access from the apps. Again, as more and more applications move out to the cloud, and as you start accessing applications in the cloud, you're going to be creating more and more management of user IDs and passwords. Zero sign-in creates a methodology where you do not have to worry about managing those user IDs and passwords in multiple locations. You have a single repository. Trust relationships are set up between MobileIron and your service providers, and then leveraging the zero sign-in capabilities allows you to access that without exposing your credentials to other systems. As we talked about, it's all about the user experience, okay? MobileIron has worked extremely hard to provide user flexibility around the device and a great user experience to the user. If it's easy to use, people will use it and you will have a more secure environment. So as we kind of wrap this up and take this away, what I'd like to do is think about mobility and think about those mobile devices becoming part of your enterprise identity. You can leverage zero sign-on, you have the flexibility with the devices, and especially in these current times, you don't have to worry about locations or any services, in terms of providing secure access to those services from any location. With that, I would like to thank you for your time. Rich, we've probably got a few minutes left for questions if anything's come in. And if you'd like to carry on this conversation further, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Despite the size of the audience today, there's not one question that kind of surprises me because we have so many people on here today. But folks, if you're just a little on the shy side and don't want to type your question, and that's fine. You can also call us at 844-FLYCAST. That's 844-359-2278. Or you can chat with us live during normal business hours from 8:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Eastern time on our website. We have people standing by just to chat with you, help you out, get you white paper, status sheets, training, demos, whatever that might be. And you can email us at info@flycastpartners.com. I want to thank you, Frederick. Great presentation. Thank you for sharing this tool and all its incredible capabilities with us.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
I want to thank everyone that took time out of their busy schedule to join us today. With that, we will see you at our next presentation. I want everyone to please stay safe out there. And if you have questions, once again, feel free to reach out to us.